Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever it is that you are listening, and welcome back to the ROKER Report podcast. We're in the fantastic Sunderland University studios here in the David Putnam Media Centre, and I'm delighted to announce that on today's show, we've got Sunderland Ladies head coach Melanie Reay with us to discuss all things Sunderland Ladies, including the terrific start of the season. But first and foremost, how are you doing, Melanie? Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to be here.
Good. Now, your association with Sunderland is quite long for those of us who don't know, both as a player, coach, and obviously where you're at now as well. I think it stretches almost 2 decades, is that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. You played for Sunderland as a teenager. I think we were named Cowgate Kestrels, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You won the Golden Boot in 2 of your 3 seasons. What I wanted to ask is, what are the main differences that you see in the ladies' game from when you played compared to now?
I mean, when I first started playing, I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
For a team, like you said, called Cowgate Kestrels. We went on a massive journey back in the day with Cowgate, and we jumped from club to club, keep changing our name to try and get backing, off a men's club. We had spells at RTM Newcastle, Blythe Spartans, East Durham, but it was the same group of girls who started the journey who kind of fell into Sunderland Ladies in the end. So we ended up winning promotion. I think it was 1999. We won the Northern Premier League, and then we kind of embedded in with Sunderland Ladies, and that's where the Sunderland Ladies history started, really.
Yeah.
So it's been a hell of a journey as a player, and times have changed, and it's grew really quickly. The crowds that come and watch now compared to back in the day, it's still got a long way to go, but it's shown big improvements so far.
What was the kind of crowd you would pick up when you were playing, and how does it compare now in terms of numbers itself?
It was just parents, I think, of what I can remember. I can't really remember there being a fan base around the team. It was just your friends and your family who came to watch.
Do you think social media's had a big impact on bringing people along and things like that?
Massively. I mean, we used to get the results on, is it CFAX or teletext?
Yeah.
And it gradually got a couple of lines in a newspaper. So the social media impact. Everyone's on social media these days, so it's there to be read. So that has a positive effect on getting messages out there for sure.
When you were a player, I think we had Grace on with Chris not too long ago, and obviously she's doing a little bit of coaching alongside the playing as well. Was it a very similar path for yourself with that? Did you always know you wanted to go into coaching after you're playing?
From a young age, I always had a love of football. Yeah. And it was something I always wanted to do. I definitely knew I wanted to do something in sport. Mm-hmm. So eventually when, I've come through, education and ended up playing, obviously transferring to Sunderland Ladies, the name. And there was a guy called Alan Snowden who used to be the assistant manager at Sunderland. Yeah. And he ended up getting us into my first coaching job, really, and that's where it all started. The coaching side of it always interested us. I was always thinking about, had a football brain, not just a player, but I was always thinking off the field as well. And it was something I wanted to do from a young age. So got the coaching badges early on, and eventually transferred from the playing side of it to obviously the managing side.
And I think, when you took over, it's something, obviously as a manager, you've been a coach for a long, long time. Before that, you did graduate as well. I think you took over from Carlton about 2.5 years ago now, approximately.
Yeah.
At the time, Sunderland had moved from full-time towards part-time. I think we'd lost the likes of Beth Mead had went to Arsenal, I think, at that point as well. Although it was obviously a massive honour, I can imagine, to be offered the job. Was it difficult adapting to sort of part-time from previously full-time? How did you deal with the adjustment?
I think, when people say full-time, I think sometimes you get a bit disillusioned because not everyone was full-time. We still had people who had dual, they were playing and they were still working. So Steph Bannon was still, full-time teacher. So we still had a bit of a balance. We probably had more full-time than part-time. And that it was a strange one to take over because we started in the spring series, which was put in place to transfer back to winter football. We actually had a good spring series. We finished 5th. I think, I'm sure we drew against Arsenal at Hetton as well. We picked up some great results. Yeah. So it was a good one to come into in terms of me setting a standard and setting my philosophy, so to speak, on going forward.
There's obviously been an awful lot made, and I think we sort of touched on it off air previously about the ladies' team and the demotion that was on there. But as heartbreaking as it was for everyone concerned, I wanted to kind of discuss the positives that came from that. Obviously, everyone was frustrated by it, and it must have been really, really, really tough. There's no doubt about that. But how much does an experience like that sort of show your character and the resolve of the ladies that you're coaching, and how proud of them were you that they responded so well?
Yeah, it was a really tough time. I think the hardest part was it happened really late.
Yeah.
So, players didn't know if they were going to get new contracts. We didn't know what, we were left in limbo a little bit. And when obviously the news broke that it was the double relegation, I lost the whole team.
Yeah.
So I was left obviously trying to rebuild and find a squad together to play in the league that we were put in.
Yeah.
We managed to obviously keep hold of one experienced player and another two who had some kind of first team exposure, and the rest hadn't been exposed to senior football at all. So it was a really tough challenge. But we managed to get a squad of, I purposely wanted a big squad because I knew they were the only players I had at my exposure. I didn't have a development team.
Yeah.
And along with losing the majority of the team, we lost obviously the development team underneath. We lost a lot of staff as well. So it was a big rebuild on and off the field, really. But we had a team, of full homegrown players. They were all from the northeast.
Yeah.
A lot of young players then had to step up, which has been tough. It was tough the first season. We were really naive, I think, because they didn't have that kind of experience. They didn't have that kind of exposure. Playing senior football against women who are established is tough. When you're coming through the junior ranks and everyone's nice when you're playing against them, and you step up and people are tackling you hard, or little off the ball incidents, and the physicality of it. They had to learn quick, and obviously we didn't have a pre-season either.
Mm-hmm.
So we went into the first couple of games of the season, and it took a while to get going. We didn't really kick on until probably after Christmas.
Yeah.
Where we put a decent run together and finished. We finished second in the end, which was a fantastic achievement. But big lessons were learned, and hopefully we're stronger for that now.
Yeah, very much so. You talked about having to have basically a whole new team. I think Kira was the one that stayed in terms of the experienced players. An awful lot can happen with the man's team as well. Well, we had to change a lot of players, and when we dropped down and we had almost a whole overhaul, how difficult is it to not just bring in players with different talents and make sure they're fit in the talent, but bring in different personalities, different age groups? How do you begin on sort of molding that together?
It just takes time. It takes time for them to get to know me. It takes time for me to get to know, 20 players and their personalities. I did know a lot of them. Through obviously some of them stepped up through the development team, but I was never with them on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So and we put them through. We put them through it the first couple of months. We really tested them. Their mentality to see how much they could absorb. Kept things really simple for them to understand. We wanted to play one way, one style of football, just to keep it really simple for them, and that probably held us back in certain games as well because we didn't have that adaptability. And the biggest thing was, we didn't know the league. We never, playing in the highest level in WSL 1, we'd never come across the lower teams.
Yeah.
We didn't really know, in the top league, everyone wants to play nice football, play out from the back, play through the thirds. And, we learned quite quickly that probably doesn't happen in the third tier of women's football. It was, sometimes like the men's football, back to front as quick as possible, quite physical. Pitches aren't as good, can't play with nice football. So, everyone learned a great deal from that first season.
And it is hugely different, isn't it? And I think we talked about last season as well, and you mentioned didn't really kick on until sort of December time. But I think if it had not been for Blackburn, who let's be honest, went a phenomenal run. I mean, we were the only team to beat them as far as I know. Yeah. If Blackburn hadn't gone on that run, that we would have won the league realistic. And there's not many teams going to run like Blackburn done. So going into this season, you must have been you still must be hugely confident that you can sort of reach the goals that you want to reach.
Yeah, I mean, we've said, we want to get promoted. It's not a secret. Everyone knows it, and rightly so. Why shouldn't we want to get promoted? Because we finished second last season. And one of the main things for pre-season was, and one of the key messages for me to the players was, I wanted a more adaptable team. I knew we could play 4-3-3. We played it all last season, but we came up short in certain games. Mm-hmm. We dropped silly points in certain games because we didn't really have another go-to system. So I've spent the whole of pre-season playing 3-5-2, having it as another go-to system, and we've adapted that slightly in certain games. So we've got another strand of how we play as well.
Yeah.
And that's proved, we've picked up points this season from doing that, from being adaptable. So, the Huddersfield game, we started 3-5-2, played absolutely horrendous in the first half, changed to 4-3-3, we ended up winning the game 4-1 comfortably. So having that extra string to our bow in terms of making us a better team has proved dividends already.
Talked about sort of pre-season and changing things and adapting things, but there's a lot of good signings that came in the summer as well. I think Charlotte has been excellent. I was at the game against Hull. I think, I have to touch on Jessica Brown, like how good she's been. And believe it or not, she's 16 years old, which even took me by surprise. And there's a big sort of production line of players that have come from Sunderland. You've just got to look at the ladies' national team and Lucy Bronze, Steph. There's so many that came through. Obviously, you don't want to put too much pressure on anyone's shoulders, but like, how impressed have you been by her, and do you think she could be someone next on that production line?
I think the good thing about the young players is that they're not the finished article.
Yeah.
So when they come into the senior football, they're like sponges and they want to learn. They want to know everything. They want to ask questions, which is great because it challenges us as coaches. I've encouraged them to watch the senior players. I've encouraged Niamh Herron to be around Charlotte Potts and Grace McCarthy, see what they do, see how they prepare for training, see what they're like in the dressing room, see how they warm up. If you can take little bits off everyone,
yeah,
and make yourself a better player for it, then that's what you need to do. You can't just rely on yourself. You need other people around you to make you into a top class player.
And how great is it having players like, Grace, who wants to go into coaching, as we discussed on the previous podcast? How great is it to have people like that sort of around to help those young girls as well? Because they, I imagine, are probably loving giving that advice and loving being sort of lent on almost for their experience.
I think it's really important you have that balance. You've got your experienced players who, and I suppose the experienced players are the hardest ones to coach because they've already been moulded into who they are. They're all set in their ways and they're not used to change sometimes, so it's hard for them to maybe buy into something that you're doing because they're not used to doing it.
Yeah.
So having that blend of experience and the youth is, we've got a really good squad at the moment, and I'm happy with the additions that I've brought in.
I probably stepped too far ahead here, but I'll jump back a little bit. There's a lot made club-wide about the previous regime, and it was what it was. But when Stuart Donald came in, and obviously we've had Stuart on the podcast as well, he speaks really passionately about wanting to make sure that the ladies are sort of looked after as they should be. I think the last podcast, he spoke about if there is a promotion there, he'll make sure that, money's not an issue with that. How have things been with the new owners since they've came into the new club, and what sort of positives do you feel they've brought towards the ladies team and yourself?
Obviously, we've been integrated back into the training ground, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
Being able to train in, the world-class facilities, training indoor when it's cold and raining, and, it's an indoor barn. It's, that's where we're training at the moment. That's, it's really good compared to where we used to train after we got moved out of the academy. But, coming back in is, it's give everyone a lift as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, the ladies' team's going in the right direction under the new ownership, which is brilliant for everyone involved.
Yeah, very much so. Talking about moving back into the academy as well, you've recently played at the academy, but also the Stadium Light for the Newcastle game. How good of an experience was that, not just for the players, but for yourself? How good was it to see people having such a intrigue into the team?
Yeah, we've had a bit of a strange start of the season, obviously with Hetton getting caught on fire. We've had we've reversed a couple of fixtures and played away, so it feels like we haven't had a home game yet, to be honest. But playing at the stadium was excellent, and big thanks to the club for letting me have that experience, because it was a quick turnaround, to be honest. It was a couple of days.
Yeah.
So to get 1,200 people there was fantastic. It was a big moment for the girls, and I was slightly concerned that it might be too much sometimes, because it's a big occasion, big pitch, big stadium, but we won. So that I think there was a couple of nerves on the day, which sometimes you normally don't see, but we got the result against Newcastle, and the result's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously playing Hull at the academy, that feels more like home because we're there during the week.
Yeah.
Pitches are fantastic, and it was a high scoring game, so everyone who was there probably really really enjoyed the game, and it was good to see. It was good to see the girls embrace the occasion and play with freedom against a team who's struggling in the league. But we scored some really good goals that game, so it was a good confidence boost going into the Huddersfield game.
It was clinical that day, wasn't it? It was like every time you went forward, it looked like when I scored. And the thing is, for the people who weren't at the game, yes, we scored 9, but it could have quite easily been about 20 if I remember correctly.
It could have been, yeah.
Would you like to play at the Stadium of Light more and the Academy Light more, or do you kind of like having a permanent home where you can occasionally kind of not venture off but go into like the Stadium Light, the Academy Light? Do you prefer them as one-offs, or would you like to kind of maybe play there more often?
I think we're settled with Hetton. We've been there a long time now. Yeah. And it's it's a nice little ground. When there's lots of people there, it feels full. We're never going to get thousands and thousands of people coming to the game, so the Stadium of Light feels empty. So playing at Hetton, it's more familiar. A nice pitch. Yeah. And we're looking forward to getting back there on Sunday.
As I said before, I totally skipped too far ahead, so I'm keep on going back on myself. Yeah, I get excited. What can I say? But we've talked about, obviously, last season, not gaining promotion, finishing second, but still a really, really good season, a real strength in character, especially. Obviously, Bridget Galloway, Kira Ramshaw in particular had great seasons. Have started the season really well. I thought Kira and Molly at the game against Hull were great, and they were both really, really good players. And obviously, Bridget just can't stop scoring. It must have been quite hard to pick fault with the season that they had last season. And as you say, you always want to improve, but we did play really well based on the circumstances. But going into this season, what did you ask of the girls, and what do you think was required to make sure they go sort of one better and make sure they definitely gain that promotion this season?
It's just maintaining high standards, what's going to make you the best player possible, and are you doing those things? It's not just about turning up on a Tuesday and Thursday night training with me. It's the other things during the week that you're doing, looking after yourself away from football, recovering properly, eating properly, sleeping properly, giving yourself every chance to be the best player possible on a Sunday when you turn out in the red and white stripes. But going back to Molly, Bridget and Kira, they're the players I spoke about, earlier on in terms of, when we lost all the players. Yeah. Kira was the experienced player who we kept, and Molly and Bridget, it had moments in that WSL1 season when they played, moments when they didn't. And, retaining them this season, it was really important. Yeah. Having the players who've been there and done it to guide the other players and also to push them to higher standards almost. Yeah. They know what it takes. They've been there. They've played against the best players in the world in WSL1 football. Playing against the likes of Chelsea in WSL1, you're pretty much playing against an international team. So them players now competing in the third division should be able to do it week in, week out. And that's the pressure I put on them. Yeah. So I'm not surprised Kira won Player of the Year last year for the league. And rightly so. I would be asking the questions if she didn't win it this year. Yeah. So that's the type of pressure I put on them. Bridget Galloway should be scoring every week. And that's, and she is. Yeah. And, so I can't ask anything more of her, but can I squeeze a little bit more out of her? Can I set her different challenges to keep her motivated? So she's not going to take her foot off the gas and stroll during the week and just think she's going to turn up on a Sunday. Yeah. So it's, it's about motivating different levels of players and trying to, keep them going and make sure that we win every time we play.
Which you pretty much have. When you look at the season so far, I think scintillating form would be the word I'd probably use. And I think, we talked about the Stadium of Light before. The Derby win naturally always grabs the headlines, especially when it was at the Stadium of Light and it looks like a big standout. But it's really the league form where obviously it's been most impressive. The Huddersfield game, 1-0 down at half time, you make 2 changes, you come back and tonk them, basically. Mm-hmm. Hull the week before that was like so clinical. There's only been Middlesbrough that's took points off us this season. Like I was saying before, the whole game, it was so clinical. It was like devastatingly clinical. Could you have hoped for a better start of the season, and what element of the ladies' play has impressed you the most?
No, we're absolutely delighted with the way we started, and that's what I wanted. You know, we want to win. We don't just want to target to win X amount of games. We want to win every game we play, and how we do that is we become a more adaptable team, like I said. Yeah. So, and refer to the Huddersfield game when last season we might have lost that game because we didn't have we didn't have a plan B. When you coach a team twice a week, it's really hard to get too much information into them. So it takes a while, but knowing we've had the whole season playing a certain formation and now me challenging them to play a different way is give with that adaptability to win games against Huddersfield. so hopefully that puts me in good stead going forward.
How nice is it as a coach when you have the idea of having that plan B, a different formation, something different? You go to a top of the table clash, you're 1-0 down, you think, in your own words, weren't playing too great at that point. Then you change the thing you thought that you might need to do, and that wins you the game 4-1. Like, how much pleasure does that give you as a coach thinking, actually?
I was immensely proud of them, because it's all good and well me trying to coach them how to do it, but at the end of the day, they have to step on the pitch and deliver it. And you know what? They're like sponges. Everything I tell them, they want more, and that's really challenging for me. I love it. Ask us as many questions as you can, because I'm thinking as well. I'm learning on the job as well, so that that motivates me to be better as well.
Yeah.
So being able to go in at half time and go, right, this isn't working. We need to change it. This is what plan B. And everyone, do you know what you're doing? Everyone's like, yes, great, right, get out there and go and do it. And they did. Within a minute, Katie Barker ran down the left wing and crossed for Kira, 1-1, and then we kept going. And it was a bit like the whole game. They kept going. Every time they got a chance, they scored. And credit to them, because Huddersfield were joint top going into the game.
Yeah.
So that was a big result for us.
And funny second half, just checking Twitter, they're coming out like pops as opposed to goals. It was just like checking them time and time again. It was great.
Yeah, so it gives them confidence, confidence and momentum to keep going. And again, they set a standard on Sunday, because they weren't great in the first 45, but actually they totally transformed the second half and got 3 points. So that bar's just gone again. It's gone a little bit higher again. And being able to come from behind, is a good asset to have as a team as well, because it showed character.
Yeah.
It showed fight. Actually, if you want to get promoted, you need to beat Huddersfield. Because the teams in the league above are going to be harder again.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of them on Sunday.
Moving away from, I suppose, Sunderland ladies specifically, I think if you like football, and even if you don't, you kind of fail to have noticed how popular the Women's World Cup was. Not just because England did well. I think people genuinely enjoyed it and watched it and thought, you've seen the technical standard of it was great. But have you noticed, as someone who's been involved in ladies football for a long time, have you noticed an uplift in the interest in your team in particular since the success of the World Cup?
I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the World Cup. I went over as a guest from the FA on a female coaching mentoring programme. So we went to 3 games to observe them. It was brilliant. France really embraced the World Cup.
Massively. Actually,
lots of fan zones around in Lyon. A real buzz about the place, which was great. And I think it's like any tournament that England in, men or women, football or non-football. The country seems to get a little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
And coming back from my 10 days there, back in, everyone was excited and rightly so. It's great publicity on, I think it was on BBC, was it?
Yeah, BBC, yeah.
And you just hope that them fans who all tuned in, the millions that tuned in to watch, then go and support their local team.
Yeah.
And if that kind of exposure can then increase, the audience to women's football, then, everyone's a winner, really. But that's why I'm excited to get back to Hetton, because it's obviously the first time we're going to be back there after the World Cup.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get, fans coming out to support the ladies team in their numbers.
And for anyone listening, it's Burnley 2:00 on Sunday, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's technically your first home game, as you were saying before, isn't it? It's been the Stadium of Light, it's been the Academy of Light, and then it's Hetton. You talked before about going to the World Cup, which is great. Obviously, you have a history with the Lionesses as well, and you helped Phil Neville also. How did that come about? And did the experience at international level, how did that aid you in your day-to-day at Sunderland?
I'd done a few things previous as well. I'd done a couple of under-19 camps that Mo Marley was in charge of, and then when Mark Sampson was there, I knew Mark through the college programme. I went in to help Marianne with the 23s, which was a fantastic experience. I did that for a couple of years, and then got the phone call off Phil to ask him to go in to help him against Bosnia and Wales in the World Cup qualifiers. He wanted to give females opportunities to coach at the highest level, and Sunderland released us from duties here, and off I went for the 10-day, 12-day camp, I think it was. Thrown straight in, delivering meetings, coaching sessions, and it was brilliant. Really professional setup, fantastic opportunity, and hopefully I'm a better coach for it. Coaching different players, international styles of play, international opposition. Really enjoyed it. And then off the back of that, I got the opportunity to take the 23s to Norway. I had to head them up and do all the pre-camp stuff and pick the squad. Phil wanted us to take that, and I took a staff of 9 others with us. And again, a fantastic opportunity. We played against Sweden, Norway, and America. And again, little bits of opportunities like that can only help you in the future.
I think it's probably not something that's on your mind at the moment with the job at hand. But in the future, do you have international ambitions?
I would never say never.
Yeah.
I think the frustration for the international coaches who are in post now is they don't coach day to day.
Yeah.
And I think I would miss that. I like being on the grass. Coaching every 6 weeks would probably annoy us because I'd be chomping at the bit to get out there and do something. And to be honest, when they are in camp, they don't train that much.
Yeah.
You just keeping them ticking over as well. So I would never say never. I really enjoyed the experience and the challenge. Taking a team to a World Cup would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But, the club environment and the club football at the minute is something that I really like.
Getting dug in day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Phil as well, obviously you've worked with Phil. I should probably ask it, how was working with Phil? I mean, were you, obviously he's a great coach, a lot of experience, but the success of the ladies team at the World Cup seemed to take some people by surprise. But I imagine working that closely and seeing the girls in the team didn't surprise you that much. I
think obviously they wanted to win the World Cup, didn't they?
Yeah.
And rightly so. Being second, I think they've been second, they've been third, they've been fourth in the world at some point.
Yeah. Always been on the top.
And he was just a normal guy. He's not some people put these celebrities on big pedestals, but he was just a normal guy who loves football, who wanted to do his best for the Lionesses.
Yeah.
And he embraced me when I went in and trusted us to do a job. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. It was just unfortunate they couldn't get that little bit further in the World Cup.
If it wasn't for America, you never know.
You never know.
They are a good team.
Yeah, they're really good.
And again, I think one thing a lot of people were quite interested in who were getting into the ladies football, and something that personally interested me was, why have America been so good for so long? And I correct me if I'm wrong here, but they have like a college-based thing, don't they? Where it's like bred into them from a really, really, really young age. Are you seeing that happening in sort of England as well, or in Britain? Are you finding that like girls are getting picked up younger and it's more like American-based?
I think the popularity of it in America is, the country's so big, isn't it? The country's so big. They've got so many colleges, so many universities. They've had a professional league for a lot longer than we have in England.
Yeah.
So we're probably playing catch up, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But we've made huge strides in England so far in terms of trying to develop our game. And the top league now, the WSL, is starting to become one of the best in the world. It's attracting some big players into the league. I think it's restricted to so many out of Europe. It's for England players that the rules and regulations are there to try and keep the best players in England. The FA don't want them going to play in different parts of the world. So, the league's getting stronger and stronger every year. So it'll be an interesting season for the top flight as well.
Just to finish off, there was a really good Twitter question here, and I think it was a really good question to finish on, I suppose, in a way. I could be wrong. But obviously, we've touched on it. It's been a great start of the season, almost perfect, barring like one game, which was still a draw. But how do you keep your feet firm on the ground from now on, after coming through basically a really tough set of fixtures as well, successfully?
I think it's a really long season.
Yeah.
We're only top of the league by 3 points. As soon as you start taking your eye off the ball, that's when you tend to slip up. So I'm constantly reinforcing, the high standards and the professionalism that we need on a day-to-day basis to ensure that the team is ready on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But until it's over, the league's not going to be won until the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So we need to keep going, and I would never let anyone get carried away in September when we don't finish till May. It's certainly a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. Perfect. Melanie, thank you so much. And for anyone, like we said, touching on before, Sunday at Hetton, 2:00 kickoff, league games, and then following that, you can check all the fixtures at SAFC Ladies on Twitter, which Mark covers as well. But thank you very much for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having us.
No problem.